All right. So, as you find yourself sitting on your mat or lying on your mat, just go ahead and begin. Tonight's yin class is a yin restorative class, and so we will be holding poses long, about 3 to 5 minutes, like we do in a typical yin class. But I'll offer more restorative variations as well, so that if you are looking more for a class to just let go rather than work through releasing anything, you'll have options for both of those things. And of course, at any time, as in any class, if you want to do something different than what I am suggesting, do what your body needs and what you want. And if you find a pose that you love and you want to stay there the entire duration, um, do that. This is your time that you've taken to spend on yourself. I'm just offering some suggestions of ways that you might want to use it. So go ahead and find yourself in a comfortable position. And if you feel comfortable with it, go ahead and just close your eyes and begin over the next 2 breaths to just notice what your breath feels like as it comes in and out of your nose. And with that, notice if you notice any temperature of your breath. Maybe it feels cool or it feels warm. Notice if it feels like you're breathing more clearly out and in of one nostril than another. And just begin to pay attention to your breath, not trying to change anything, not trying to make it any deeper or shallower. Just notice that it exists and that it's with you. And allow your breath to be the only thing that you carry with you through this class tonight on this mat. If you have things from your day that are on your mind, we'll do an exercise in just a few minutes where you're invited to just allow those to flow out of you and they'll be there after class. So just allow your breath to be what's with you. And if you have any pets, obviously they might join as well. But go ahead and begin to take deeper breaths. And with these deeper breaths in and out through your nose, just at first, begin to imagine that there's a balloon inside your belly. And that as you inhale, that balloon is expanding. Maybe it's your favorite color balloon or whatever color first pops into your mind. Imagine it in that color. And once it expands, just hold it for just a moment and notice it. And then see if you can exhale slower than you inhaled. And so take a couple breaths where if you're inhaling to a count of 4, holding for a count of 2, and then exhaling maybe to a count of 6. And if that feels incredibly simple, maybe try exhaling to a count of 7 or 8. And just begin to notice what that feels like to have an imaginary balloon in your belly, expanding and rising your belly as you inhale, noticing what it feels like to feel full of breath, and then slowly exhaling, allowing that air to escape from that balloon back up from your belly to your chest and out your nostrils. And allow your body to just sink more into whatever is underneath it as you do that. So if you're lying down, maybe you feel your back feeling more in tune with the ground. If you're seated, maybe you feel your seat more connected to the ground. And on your next few breaths, we're going to just begin imagining that we can use our breath to trace all of our limbs. And so we'll start with our legs. So on your next inhale, imagine that this time as you inhale, your breath can trace the entire length of your right leg all the way down. As you inhale, it traces down the side of your body, down your hip, down your thigh, and all the way down to your toes, tracing between each of those. Maybe you'd like to imagine it as kind of a laser beam or a color that's kind of tracing over you. And then as you exhale, that same either line that you're tracing or color is kind of washing back up your body, up the opposite leg, and back out your nose. And then on your next inhale, just inhale and trace down the opposite side of your body. So if you started the same way I did, you're tracing down the left side of your body all the way down your hip, your thigh, past your knee to your toes. And maybe you imagine that you get a brief foot massage from this color or sensation. And then it traces back up the right leg as you exhale. And imagining that your legs are just kind of weighted, whether they be seated with your knees bent or lying down with your legs out in front of you. Just imagine that they're completely weighted down, relaxed. And take a breath just here, noticing what your legs feel like, noticing what your feet feel like, maybe wiggling your toes a little bit. And then on your next inhale, we're going to do something similar with our arms. And so imagine as you inhale that your breath is coming in your nose and tracing down the right side of your neck, down your shoulder, and down your right arm, all the way down to your fingertips. And then just for a moment, imagine that you're holding something in your right hand, whether that be holding something that's the same color as the balloon, or just holding kind of a ball of light. And with that, I want you to think of something that you found hard, challenging, or stressful about this day or this week. Imagine that you can place that stress inside the palm of your right hand. And leave that there, but imagine tracing your breath and an exhale back up your right arm, up the side of your neck, and then on your next breath, as you inhale, just trace your breath all the way down the left side. So down your left side of your neck, your left arm, all the way to your left palm. And once you're there, similarly, I want you to think of something that has been really lovely about the last 3 days of your life. It's an experience or a moment or an emotion that just makes you smile when you think about it. And place that inside kind of a glowing marble, if you will, on your left hand. And hold on to that as well. And on an exhale, just trace back up your left arm, the left side of your neck, and exhale fully. And take 2 more breaths at whatever pace you want and whatever position you're in. And once you finish with those breaths, I invite you to just come up to a comfortable seat with your seat on the ground and your head pointed up towards the ceiling. And just remember what you were holding in each of those palms, and maybe place your palms up on your knees, facing towards the ceiling, and imagining that your right hand is holding the thing that you want to not be holding, and your left hand is holding something that makes you smile. And once you're in this comfortable seat, I want you to bring your hands to your heart center and imagine that the light in your left hand just encapsulates the marble or the light in your right hand and allows that experience to just be fully enclosed within the joy or the experience that made you smile. And it just puts that in kind of a box for now. We can't necessarily fully get rid of our stress, but we can kind of think about and focus on the things that bring us joy. And so we're going to do 3 different breaths that I like to call volcano breaths, where we're going to push out the stress out of that marble or glowing orb by kind of imagining that it's now also inside of a volcano. And so we have the ability to just push out the stress with our breath. And so whatever is stress is holding in that marble or ball in the middle, we're just going to, as we inhale, point our hands, tracing them up the center line of our body to above our head. And then at the top, I want you to open your palms and just imagine that you're releasing the stressful parts and hold and tracing down the sides of your body as you release. Just imagine that the joy and the happiness is kind of creating a little safe pyramid or shape or bubble for you to just practice in tonight. So 2 more times, I want us to just bring our hands to our heart center, take an inhale, and then exhale, rise our hands above our head, pointing them up to the ceiling, maybe stretching all the way up as far as we can. And then on these 2, just sigh out and drop your hands to the side. And just allow that to just create a space for you and the stress to just be outside of that space. So do that 1 more time on your own. And then come back to just that seated position. And we're going to stretch out our neck a little bit, let go of any more tension, and move into our first pose momentarily. And so once you're back to the seat, whichever side of your neck feels the most tense, invite you to drop that ear to that shoulder. And so for me, the left side of my neck is a little bit more tight, so I'm dropping my left ear to my left shoulder first, which is allowing me to just really feel that the right side of my neck also has a lot in it. And so take a couple breaths here and just look up towards the ceiling and down to your shoulder and see if you notice a difference in sensation in your neck. And then on your next breath, roll your head to where your chin is tucked and you're kind of looking down either at your navel or the ground. And notice any tension in the back of your neck and maybe in the tops of your shoulders. And then trace your chin across your chest to the opposite ear on the opposite shoulder from where you started. So for me, I now have my right ear tilted down towards my right shoulder. And again, look up towards the ceiling and down towards that shoulder, noticing what that feels like in your neck. And then on your next inhale, bring your neck back to neutral, looking forward. And we're just going to roll our shoulders kind of up and back just a couple of times, maybe 6 times. Just feeling what it feels like to move our shoulders in this way. Many times if we are working in a seated position, we don't move our shoulders very much. And so they get stuck in one position. And over time, that can cause us other things to get stuck in one position to the point that eventually we might end up with a migraine. And once you've done that about 6 times, do it the opposite way where you kind of push your shoulders back, pointing your chest out and roll them forward. And while you're doing this, just notice which of these motions feels more strange to you or your body feels less able to easily do and less able to just flow through. Just noticing that. One of my favorite parts of yin and also restorative is that it allows me in the stillness to notice which parts of my body want to move. And from there, I can notice which parts maybe I need to move a little more or move differently. And so once we've got our shoulders rolled out, just kind of shake them a little bit and let anything else go that needs to go. Just tracing it down our hands, letting it go. And we're going to move into our first pose, which will be a wide-legged forward and side fold called dragonfly. And so if you, like me, have a wall on one side of your mat, you might want to sit sideways, but go ahead and find yourself a seat. If you'd like to prop up your seat with a blanket folded under you and just point your legs 45 degrees out to each side from your body. And you can position them wider if you'd like to, but just point them out to the sides. You don't need to worry about flexing or pointing your toes at this point. And if you have a bolster, go ahead and bring that in front of you. We'll be using that as for part of this pose if you have it and you'd like it. And if you'd like to have props with you nearby, go ahead and have a block that we can use as we go to each side. And as I mentioned, in this yin restorative class tonight, I'll offer options from a yin perspective, and then I'll also offer some other options where you can just collapse and fold into the pose. And so for the first side of dragonfly, we're going to start on our left side. And so what I want you to do is if you have a block that you'd like to use, go ahead and place that on the inside of your left shin and just sit up really tall, noticing the entire length of your spine. And then go ahead and place your left forearm on that block and just begin to lean your body to the left side of your foot or to the left side towards your left foot. And from here, you might start to notice that you feel you feel your right sit bone kind of coming off of the ground. And if that doesn't feel comfortable for you tonight, the other option for this pose is to bring your hands on either side of your left leg and just fold over your left knee. You might or might not want that block at this point, and you might want a block for each forearm, but just begin to fold over your left leg, either folding kind of as a side stretch so that you might want to raise your right arm up over your head and create kind of a crescent arc shape, or you might want to kind of point your chest towards your knee and just fold over your left leg. And we'll be here for about 3 minutes, just noticing what it feels like to fold to this side, trying to keep our right sit bone on the ground, and just allowing the length of our legs and the length of our back to be noticed. And throughout this practice tonight, I encourage you to consider trying the notion of tracing your inhales and exhales up and down your legs or your arms, and noticing what that feels like to feel the entire length of each of your limbs or your back when we're in different poses. But just see if you can get yourself to a place where you can settle in for a couple more minutes and just be here, resting, relaxing, and releasing. And if this is your first time trying a yin or restorative class, I want to encourage you to just trust your body and go where it wants to go tonight. In a traditional yin class, I like to encourage people to move to kind of a 6 out of 10 of sensation, never wanting to feel pain, but wanting to notice the sensation. But in a restorative class, I just want you to go where you can go and then just relax and collapse into that pose. And I want to start us with a quote tonight from Winnie the Pooh that, as much as it's designed for children, I think it's designed for all of us. And the quote says, "You're braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think." And I think that's really relevant to this type of practice because it encourages you to just believe in yourself and trust your body. Do what you need. You know what you need. I'm merely offering you suggestions about how to get there. So take 5 more deep breaths, inhaling and exhaling, and seeing if you can just release and relax a little bit more on each of those exhales. And once you finish those 5 breaths on your last exhale, begin to slowly rise yourself back up, coming out of the pose as gently as you might have gotten into the pose. And once you find yourself upright again, just take a breath where you place your hands on the insides of your legs and just look up towards the ceiling and breathe in and really feel the front of your throat as you breathe in, and trace that inhale down your throat, looking up and noticing what it feels like to stretch our neck in this way. And then exhale, coming back to neutral. And if you used a prop on the left side that you'd like on the right side, go ahead and move that over there. And then from here, if you tried kind of arcing yourself over to your left leg. You might want to try that on the right side, or you might want to try something different. We'll just kind of tilt ourselves or twist ourselves a little bit to the right and begin to kind of fold down over that right leg, leaving the left leg where it is. And another thing that yin can often teach us is how, as much as we may look symmetrical, our bodies are very different on each side, many times from each other. So you might find that you can fold a little bit more over your right knee than you did your left knee, or less. And just remember that you are a beautiful butterfly that has gotten to this point through a lot of other points, and you aren't necessarily symmetrical, and each side of you carries with it the experiences that got it there. So just allow yourself to relax and release on the right side for a couple minutes. Placing a block underneath your forehead if you'd like to just rest your head on that. And maybe close your eyes and just relax here. I think one of the things I enjoy most about using Disney or other quotes from movies designed just for children in some part is that I think we as adults often lose the wonder of our imagination sometimes. And I think coming back to simple things such as imagining our breath tracing us, listening to quotes from children's movies, or just envisioning the idea of stress being in a marble that we can explode out of a volcano can help us feel more of a sense of control over our experience, creating what we want, and letting go of what we don't need, if we can imagine that we are literally letting go of it. And take about 5 more deep breaths on this side, seeing if you can exhale and sink a little bit deeper. Imagining that your breath maybe is just carving out space in your body to allow it to release into this pose a little bit more. And after that final breath on an inhale, just bring yourself back up to neutral. Remember to come out of this pose as gently as you got into it. You might notice that your left side feels a little bit stretched. And just be gentle with yourself. And from here, we're just going to lie ourselves forward into a wide-legged forward dragonfly pose on the ground. And so if you would like to have a prop in front of you to just relax your belly and your chest onto, I encourage you to put a bolster or something there, and maybe you want to prop it up with a block so that it's at an angle. Not all of us are as easily able to fold flat to the ground. And so it's nice to have a prop. And I also find in yin and restorative classes, it's nice to just feel held by something. And so from this upright position, just take an inhale. And again, if you'd like that, looking up to the ceiling, stretching out the front side of your neck. And then as you exhale, just begin to plant your hands in front of you and walk them out away from your body, dragging the top of your body towards the ground. And if you do not mind the sensation of kind of feeling held in the air and you don't want something to relax and release onto, that's fine. You will definitely notice the sensation in your inner thighs and your back. And if you want more of that restorative pose of relaxing and releasing onto something, prop up something in front of you to the point where you can just allow your entire upper body to just lay on that. Maybe putting one side of your head on the prop, looking to that side. I'll tell us when we're halfway through if you'd like to switch to planting the opposite cheek on the prop. And just release here and rest in this wide-legged forward fold while seated. And each day for the rest of 2020, I have been kind of trying to take inspiration from different animals and the ways in which they exist and interact. And so each day I am reading a brief meditation from a book I have from a particular animal. And today's animal was the cheetah. And so I want to just share a little bit about what this author wrote about cheetahs as we're in this pose. And they said, the cheetah is the epitome of the solar forces at work. The sun doesn't shine onto the cheetah, it shines from inside this creature and expands outward to brighten the universe. The energy within a cheetah is palpable to others, and they naturally often attract an audience to bear witness to their remarkable achievements. Purpose and passion are the best fuel for cheetah's forward momentum. So if you're finding yourself lacking in these areas, reconnect to the why before you start a project and before you start running. And so tonight, I hope that you will just remember that you are braver, stronger, and smarter than you might expect. And remember why you came here, to take a break before you continue on with your time. We're about halfway through this pose. So if you'd like to switch which cheek is on the prop that you have, go ahead and do that. And just see if you can release a little bit more in this pose where we're stretching our inner thighs and also releasing and relaxing. And take 3 more deep breaths here. And after that third breath, just plant your hands again and drag your body back up to an upright position. And we'll move together from there. But take your time. And once we're in this upright position, wherever you are, just bring your legs both straight out in front of you. So bringing them in from that wide-legged position and just bounce them up and down on your mat, just allowing them to fully release, allowing them to come back together, and then just maybe windshield wiper your feet side to side, noticing what it feels like to move your legs and your hip joints this way and what your ankles feel like. And from this upright position, our next pose that we're going to move into is going to be a supported fish pose. And so I'll give us a couple of different options for this pose, but the first one that I'll demonstrate is from an upright seat. You'll want to take a block behind you if you have access to that, or if you don't, maybe a rolled up blanket, and place it behind you on your mat where it's kind of at where your shoulder blades will be when we will be lying back. And if you have a second block or maybe that bolster, place it behind the first one so that it can catch your head. And then from the seated position that you're in, you're welcome to keep your legs out in front of you long, or if you'd like to bring one leg into kind of a tree pose on the ground where your bottom of your foot is on the inner thigh, you're welcome to, or you can bring both legs into a butterfly shape with your knees pointed out and your bottoms of your feet together. That's the position I prefer for this. And then just plant your hands behind you and begin to lie yourself back so that the block or prop behind you is directly underneath your shoulder blades and allows your chest to kind of open up towards the sky and also be supported. And then adjust the second prop that will be underneath your head so that you can comfortably lie back while feeling an opening across your chest. And wiggle around here a little bit, adjusting your props to a different height or a different position as you need to. But the area of here that we're addressing and kind of focusing on is our upper back and also our chest, and just allowing ourselves to feel really open. And with your arms, if you'd like to have them down by your sides, that's one option. You can also put them out directly to the sides or in kind of goalpost arms. Or if you really want a different sensation, you can rise them up above your head and lay them back behind you. Maybe separately, or if you like to grab one wrist with the other, you can do that. But just wherever you are, shift things around so that you can be here for about 3 to 5 minutes. And come back to that visualization of there being a balloon in your belly that as you inhale, it fills up, and as you exhale, it deflates. It might feel differently here now that we're not completely flat or in that same starting position. But just imagine that you can inhale and exhale with control, making your exhales maybe a little bit longer at first. And then after you've done that a few times, just let yourself maybe close your eyes and breathe how your body wants to. And just be in this upward facing position with our chest open, our arms out, and maybe in a pretty vulnerable position. Many times, again, if we're working in jobs where we are seated or on a screen, we often can roll our shoulders forward and our chest muscles don't often get stretched out and opened up. And so this can be a chance to just allow that to shift and everything to just feel a little bit more open. And as you breathe in, you might notice that there's some pressure between the top of your back and that prop. Just allow that to be there and notice it and feel supported by what's underneath you and feel held by that. We've been here for about a minute, and so if you need to adjust anything so that you can stay here for a couple more minutes, do that. If you'd like to try changing the position of your legs or shift to the opposite leg bent and straight, if you were doing that, go ahead and shift that, or just stay where you are, whatever you need. And take 3 more breaths intentionally in this pose, seeing if you can just release a little bit more on each of the exhales. And after the third exhale, go ahead and kind of plant your forearms or your hands on the sides of your body and lift up just enough so that you can move whatever is underneath you out from underneath you. We will need it again, but just move it out from underneath you. And then lie back, just allowing your back to be fully on the mat. And just notice what it feels like to lie flat instead of having a prop underneath you. Does your chest or your back feel any differently? Does your head feel any differently? And just bring both hands to your belly and take 2 of those belly balloon breaths, noticing if it feels differently here than in that fish position. And from here, we're going to move into Shoelace Pose, or it could be considered eye of the needle pose. And so you can stay lying on your back, and I'm just going to sit up to be able to demonstrate for us momentarily. But what you'll need to do is just wherever your legs are, bring them and kind of not necessarily always all the way into your chest, but just bend your knees and bring them in towards you. And pick up your right leg and cross your right ankle over your left knee so that it's kind of bent at an angle, and leaving the left foot off of the ground. Go ahead and grab behind that left thigh and then just pull that left leg in towards your body. So in this position, our right leg is bent and we might notice a sensation in our right hip. We also might notice sensation in the back of our left leg. And just rock a little bit side to side here, kind of wiggling out anything in your lower back. And just hold on to this left leg with your hands. And if you'd like to change this a little bit, you can grab all the way around the shin or the left ankle and just pull that in towards your body. And just hold this pose for a couple of minutes, noticing the sensation on both sides of your body as you're in this interesting posture where we're both stretching and compressing different parts of our body. What does it feel like to both hold and stretch yourself at the same time? And we're about halfway through, so if you were holding on to the back of your thigh and you'd like to try grabbing your shin or vice versa, feel free to make that change and just settle back in. And coming back to your breath if you've lost it, noticing what an inhale feels like, where the breath wants to go, if it can go deep or if it's feeling like it's kind of hanging out in your chest and your heart space. And if you're feeling like it's hard to take a deep breath, try inhaling through your nose and sighing out through your mouth to just see if you can release and relax a little more. And take 3 more breaths wherever you are. And after your third breath, you'll just plant your left foot on the ground, leaving that right foot crossed over for just a moment. And then lifting that right leg up, also planting that right foot on the ground and pushing your feet out to about mat's width distance and just allowing your knees to drop in towards each other for 3 breaths, just to feel what it feels like to be in this more neutral position with our knees knocked in together. Maybe placing your hands on your belly while you breathe there. And then after those few breaths, we'll switch to the other side. So you can get into this by leaving that right foot planted, lifting up the left leg, crossing the left ankle over the right knee, and then pulling the leg in towards your body in the air, and then grabbing on to the back of that right leg or maybe the right shin. Again, remembering that our bodies are not symmetrical, so one side might be more easily able to get to one layer of the position than the other. A piece about yin is that, and restorative, is that any version of the pose is the pose. One of my favorite pieces of yin is that it's a moving meditation, at least for me. And any pose that I'm in, if I'm focusing on my breath, I'm focusing on calming myself and my nervous system and just coming back to me and myself and kind of that, coming back to that purpose, kind of like that cheetah, remembering why I'm doing what I'm doing before I start running full speed ahead. I think this time of year, we can often feel like there's a lot of things we need to run to or finish up or gather and things like that. And while all of those things have a place, it also can take us away from spending time to just be in the moment and relax and release and renew what we need in order to run those races. So for this time tonight, just be here, releasing if you'd like to feel that stretch, or just relaxing and not pushing yourself. Just taking a pause. And if you're finding it hard to keep your leg kind of in the air and pulled in towards you, you're always welcome to just leave the foot planted on the mat with your leg crossed over and just feel sensation from that pose. All of the poses are poses that allow you to get to know you a little bit more in this place today. And we're about halfway through, so if you'd like to change anything, go ahead and do that. And take 3 more breaths wherever you are, inhaling and exhaling and on purpose. And after that third breath, return the right foot to the ground. And then slowly lift up the left leg, bring the feet mat width distance again and allowing the knees to fall in together. And just breathing there for a couple of breaths. And from here, we're going to shift to more face down positions for the next part of class. So wherever you are, bring your knees back into your chest for just a moment and roll side to side. And then roll lengthwise along your back, along your spine a couple times, and roll yourself up to a seat. And then from that seat, go ahead and move into an all fours position with your knees planted underneath your hips and your hands planted underneath your shoulders. And if you'd like to have a blanket under your knees, because that's what works best for you, go ahead and do that. And we're just briefly going to stretch out our upper back and our shoulders again, and then move into some more relaxing poses. So the next pose we're going to do is just a brief thread the needle. But before that, I want us to really feel the entire length of our spine as it moves. So we're going to do 3 cat-cows together. So we'll inhale and drop our belly and lift our tail and our head up towards the ceiling. And exhale, dropping our head and moving in the opposite way. So inhaling, dropping our belly, lifting our head and our tail. And exhaling, dropping our head and raising our back up to the sky. And one more, just inhaling, lifting, looking up. And exhaling, looking back down. And from this neutral position, we're going to start with our right side. So go ahead and as you inhale, lift up your right palm from your mat and open your chest out towards the side and lift your hand up towards the ceiling, feeling that stretch all the way across your right arm and your chest. And then as you exhale, sweep that right arm underneath your left and kind of trace it out to the side and begin to bring your right ear or cheek to the side, to the mat. If you'd like to place a block under your head, you're welcome to. And just take 6 breaths here. With your left hand, you can kind of move it forward into maybe more downward facing dog type arms. Just take 6 breaths here, feeling what it feels like to feel the stretch and compression with our arms in the upper part of our body. Where does it feel like things are stretching open? Or does it feel like things are compressed? Just notice that opposite sensation while also breathing. And again, if you ever struggle with releasing and relaxing, just breathing in your nose and out your mouth can help your body to just relax a little bit more. And after you've done about 6 rounds of that, go ahead and plant your left hand back in front of your face and unwind, bringing your right arm back up towards the ceiling, opening back up, and then bringing it back to the ground in those all 4 positions, doing just 1 round of cat-cow on your own to feel into your spine and notice anything different on each side. And then we'll do that on the left side. So with our hands planted and our knees planted, lift up that left arm, open up your left chest up towards the other side, your left hand towards the ceiling, and exhale, sweep it underneath the right arm, placing the left side of your face or your cheek or your ear on the mat and putting that right arm where it needs to go. And if you ever are doing this pose and want to add more chest opening, you're always welcome to the arm that's out in front of you, maybe trace it around and grab the opposite hip. So for this pose, it would be having your right hand around your back, reaching for your left hip. That could provide a different sensation in your shoulder. And also maybe a bit of a balance challenge, which isn't necessarily restorative, but might be something your body is needing. Just listen to what you need and go with it. Take 2 more breaths here, and then just plant that right hand back in front of your face and unwind the same way we got in, lifting our left hand back up to the sky and then bringing it down to an all fours position. And from here, we're going to move into Pigeon Pose. And there's a couple of different ways that this can be more yin or more restorative. And so if you'd like to make this as restorative as possible, I encourage you to bring a bolster out in front of you and lie that just in front of you, perpendicular to your mat. And then from the all fours position that you're in, maybe you'll need to move the bolster a little forward. Just pick up we'll start with the right leg. So go ahead and pick up your right knee and just push it back behind, straighten it out and plant your right foot on the ground behind you. And just kind of bounce that right leg a little bit to feel the entire length of the leg. And then lift it up and bring your right knee in towards your chest, towards your right wrist, and just plant that knee there and kind of wing open the calf and move your right ankle towards your left wrist. And then with your left foot or left leg, pick up your leg and trace it back in space so that you're kind of in this position where your right leg is bent, your left leg is straight and it's out behind you. And if you are feeling like your right hip is floating too far off the ground, you might want to put a block or a folded up blanket underneath your right hip so that it doesn't feel like it's hanging in space. And then from here, we are just going to lie ourselves forward, moving our hands out in front of us like we did with that forward fold, and just position ourselves over that bolster. And similar to how we did with the forward fold, if you want to put things under it to bring that bolster closer to you, you can. If this position isn't working for your body tonight or isn't what you need, go ahead and just come into a child's pose position. And with that, what that would be is just bringing your knees together, sending your hips back towards your feet, and just relaxing with your chest facing towards the ground. But if you're doing pigeon, we'll be on this side for a couple minutes. So get yourself in a position that feels like you can notice sensation, but also relax and rest and release over that prop in front of you with your chest on it. And now tell us when we're halfway through if you would like to have one side of your face on the prop. I'll tell you when to switch to the other side. And sometimes in pigeon, it can feel nice for the outstretched leg to keep our toes tucked. Sometimes that feels nicer on our knee than having our foot flat on the ground. So whatever works for you, whatever you need sensation-wise or relaxation-wise, just listen to your body and do what it needs. And if you had one side of your face on the prop and you'd like to switch, go ahead and switch so that you're looking the opposite direction. And take 3 more intentional breaths on this side, allowing yourself to sink a little bit more over the prop in front of you on the exhales. And after that third breath, plant your hands and begin to just push into the ground and lift yourself and your chest back up. And from here, tuck your left toes underneath and just kind of guide that leg in, pushing into the ground and lifting up your right knee, coming back to that cat-cow position. And maybe here you want to sway your hips side to side, allow anything that needs to pop to pop. Maybe do a couple cat-cows to feel into your spine. Notice if your hips feel different on each side. And then we'll move to the second side. So picking up your left leg, stretching it out behind you with that toe tucked and just bouncing it a little bit to notice what your leg feels like in full. And then lifting up that leg, bringing the left knee towards the left wrist, ankle towards the right wrist, and tracing that right leg back in space, maybe moving it a little bit. Noticing what your right hip feels like after having been in this pose on the other side. And again, if you need to prop up your left hip, do that. If this doesn't what your body wants tonight, just move into or stay in child's pose. And just with that prop in front of you, begin to walk your hands out and lay the upper part of your body on that prop if you have one. If you need to prop it up in a different way on the side, do so. Just get yourself into a place that you can settle in and allow the entire upper part of your body to just release towards the floor and relax. And focus on noticing sensation in your hips. Notice if you notice it more in your left hip or along the front side of your right hip. And just as you inhale and exhale, trace your breath down to that part of your body and then back up out your nostrils. And when I introduced us to the idea of the cheetah as an animal to just think on and think about, I want to come back to that idea that cheetahs are constantly running and constantly doing. And again, this time of year can be that for many of us. And so, if that's you and that's where you need to be right now, just see where and think about where you can pause a little bit more, or maybe take an extra breath between things. And if you had one side of your face laying down and you want to switch to the other, now would be the time to do that. Many different things are happening out in our world, packages getting delivered late at night, people running around, and sometimes it can feel like we're burning the candle at both ends. But see where you can pause and just relax a little bit more. And take 5 more breaths wherever you are, inhaling all the way down to your hips, holding that, letting it swirl around and release any tension. And then exhaling, letting that go. And after that final breaths again, we will come out of this the same way we came in. So walking your hands back towards your body, lifting your chest up. And just move the prop that's in front of you off of your mat. You won't need it right now. And slowly as you can, come back to that all fours position, just briefly, bringing your left knee back underneath you, your right knee forward. Do a couple cat cows if you need that, or sway your hips to the side. And then we're just going to come flat on our bellies on our mat for Sphinx Pose. And so go ahead and just get yourself to lying flat with your legs stretched out behind you and plant your elbows underneath your shoulders. Wiggle your hips out so that they can feel comfortable and release your lower back. And yeah, bring your elbows underneath your shoulders and your forearms flat to the mat. To check to make sure this is a good alignment for you, go ahead and bend your arms and grab opposite elbows with opposite hands, and then open those wings back up and plant your hands palms down. And from here, just take a breath again, looking up towards the sky and noticing what a stretch across the front of your neck feels like. And then on your exhale, just allow your chin to drop towards your chest and your head to drop. And allow that upper heart space and your upper back that we stretched out in fish pose to just kind of be held in a hammock-like position between your shoulder blades. And just release your chest towards the ground. And just be here in this Sphinx pose, with your legs stretched out behind you, your heart being held between your shoulder blades, and the upper part of your back stretching in a unique position for a couple minutes. Maybe close your eyes and just be here, being held up in a different way, while also feeling the sensation of the mat underneath you in your lower body. And go ahead and take 3 more breaths. Inhaling down to your belly, noticing how an inhale presses your belly into your mat. And exhale, just letting that upper chest relax a little bit more. And after a couple breaths, lift back up your head slowly, looking back up towards the ceiling briefly, and then bringing your neck to a neutral position. And from here, we're just going to allow our hands to just relax, let go of the being held by our elbows, and just roll over onto our backs from where we are. So we're just shifting from lying face down to lying face up on our mat. We have a couple more brief options before we move into Shavasana. And so our next pose is going to be a twist. And so bring your knees up and plant your feet on your mat, about hips width distance. And then from here, there's a couple options. We're going to move into a supine twist, but the option I'll guide us into is a supine twist with eagle legs. And so if you're interested in doing that, what you'll do is just lift up your right leg and cross it over your left leg, and then push your left foot into the mat a little bit and shift your hips a little bit to the right, and then allow both knees to fall to the left side of your mat, seeing if you can allow your chest to stay pointed up towards the ceiling and just your knees to fall to the left side. If you don't want to cross your legs into eagle, you'll just have your legs pointed up to the ceiling and just allow them to fall to the left side of your mat. And if you'd like to bend your knees a little bit more and bring them in closer to your chest, you'll notice that that changes the stretch across your back. You're welcome to do that if you aren't doing eagle legs. And then with your right hand, you can bring it out to the side, stretched out, up by your ear, or up in goalpost arms. And maybe your left hand wants to find your knee. And just be here, twisting and allowing anything that needs to be kind of wrung out of your spine, any tension that's still there, to just kind of wring out like those last droplets from a washcloth. But also allow the entire right side of your body to feel open up towards the ceiling and outstretched. And just be here. Maybe you close your eyes and trace your breath down from your right fingertips all the way down the right side of your body to your right toes and back up. Or maybe you're just here, breathing and resting. And take 2 more breaths on this side. And then we will unwind ourselves back up, lifting our knees up towards the ceiling, uncrossing our legs if we had them crossed. And then on the other side, same thing. We'll just lift up our left leg, cross it over, shift our hips a little bit to the left, and allow our knees to fall to the right. And we're just about at 8:15, and our only final pose after this will be Shavasana. So if you have to go, feel free to spend just a little bit of time here and then take a Shavasana on your own. But if you'd like to spend a couple more minutes, I'll guide us through this pose and then into a 5-minute Shavasana. Just breathing in if you've already shifted sides, noticing that stretch along the left side of your body, wherever your arm is, noticing what that feels like, noticing what your lower back feels like, and allowing anything else to just release and relax in this twist. And if you are looking for a way to add more stretch and release and relief into your daily life, I recommend doing a twist on each side for about 5 minutes. at any time that you need a break of calm. If you don't have time for a full class, supine twist can be a great pose on its own to just calm our nervous system and release tension and just take a break. So on your next inhale, lift your knees back up towards the ceiling, uncross your legs if you had them crossed, shift around in any way that you need to, and then we'll head to our final pose, which is just Shavasana. So whatever you would like to do for that pose, if you'd like to grab any extra socks, blankets, sweatshirts, eye pillows, change your lighting at all, just get yourself in a comfy position where you can lie on your back, face up, and just take a couple breaths. Inhale through your nose, exhale through your mouth, and just sigh them out and just fully let go of any holding of any muscle in your body. And if lying on your back is not a pose that allows you to do that, move into something else. But just we'll spend the next 5 minutes together fully relaxed, not doing anything. I will let us know when it's been 5 minutes so that you can move into whatever is next for the rest of your evening. But just fully relax and rest here. And in this final minute of Shavasana, I want to just come back to that Winnie the Pooh quote and invite you to think about where in the next week can you live more into this quote and this idea. And again, it's you are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think. It can be easy to doubt ourselves or think that we can't do something, but oftentimes we have more strength than we think that we do. And that strength can come from ourselves or from leaning into those around us who see the strength we can sometimes forget about. So take a couple more breaths and begin to come back to this moment in time, this place in your body, wiggling your toes, noticing your fingers. Maybe you want to take an inhale and stretch your arms up or out. Point and flex your toes. And then in your own time, come to roll over to one side and then press yourself up and shift back to a seat. And we'll take one final inhale and exhale together in the opposite way than we did from the very beginning. Coming back to a seat with our palms on our knees, open up towards the ceiling. And this time, think about imagining that you can, as you inhale, fill your entire space with the sense of calm that you might be feeling right now. So we'll bring our hands out to our sides and inhale our arms up above our heads, bringing our hands together above our head and just drawing them down into our heart center and bowing our heads to ourselves, thanking ourselves for taking this time, this hour and just over 15 minutes together to just take a pause, take a breath, and take a break. Thank you for joining me tonight. I hope that you all have a great rest of your year and your evening, and to see you again soon.